Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast series. I want to take a little bit of time right here in the beginning to just explain a bit the concept. What can you expect? Why are we doing this in the first place? But don't worry, very soon we're going to invite our guest in here, and you're going to be able to hear one of the more interesting conversations that I've had in quite some time. But first of all, name of this podcast, what does coffee mean to you? And for those of you that have been following my journey, you know that I'm part of the coffee industry, and I've always been inspired by mainly what's happening outside of this industry. That's where most of my inspiration, thought, ideas have been coming from throughout the years that I've been in this industry. So what I want to do is I want to invite some of the people that inspire me from outside of the coffee industry into this podcast session, home to me, and discuss some topics that I think is really interesting, right? So we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about creating things, building things, failing at things, succeeding at things, traveling. I don't know. I think we're going to talk about a lot of different things. There are some very interesting people coming into this podcast that I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to sit down with. And the purpose here, again, is really sharing, because sharing is caring. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's also kind of true. And I believe that the coffee industry and pretty much everyone always benefits from external perspectives on what you're doing. So that's what this podcast is here to do. And in this first episode, which I think is so interesting, I get the opportunity to sit down with Benji. That is the founder, creative director of Le Bünyamin, which is one of the most successful fashion brands ever started in the Middle East, originating as a brand from Turkey. Benny himself comes from Germany at a young age and shares a little really interesting story about how it is growing up kind of in between two different cultures, and how, you know, he brings some t-shirts to an event in Berlin or Germany for fashion, and then that kind of blows up into the kind of fashion empire that he has today. We met a while back in Istanbul, actually, for the first time, when he invited these amazing craftspeople from Japan, mainly Kyoto, and kind of bridged the gap between Turkish craftsmen and Japanese craftsmen. And I was just lucky to be there, and I thought it was such an amazing event. So I knew I had to have him on this podcast. So sorry for the rambling here, first episode, right? But I'm really excited. I hope you can tell as well. And without further ado, we're just going to start this first episode. And thank you all for kind of being a part of this journey and joining me towards just inspiring and getting different perspectives, because that's really what it's all about here, right? So we want to share and just like very basic, the structure of the podcast episodes. And again, we're going to adjust and improve as we go. But the initial idea is that every episode starts with, what does coffee mean to you? Because it's just interesting to hear, and we're going to have a lot of different answers. And then from there, we're going to segue into a 60-minute long conversation. So I'm putting a timer on it, which this is the first episode. I did that a little bit clumsy. I apologize for that, but you learn and you improve. And that's pretty much it. So let's just kind of jump into this very first episode featuring Benji from Le Bünyamin. So enjoy, guys. So hi, everyone. We're basically here running a podcast, and we're running the first episode in this new podcast series, which I'm super excited about. I'm obviously going to introduce our guests. First of all, for those of you that don't know, just kind of the concept of the podcast, we really only have two very simple rules. The first one is that every episode starts with a question, and that question is, what does coffee mean to you? That's probably the only coffee-related question we are going to have in this podcast, but we're going to start there. And the second one, and I've already started that now, is that we're running every episode on a timer. So we have 60 minutes for this conversation. You are all going to hear this timer go off eventually, and that means we're going to have to stop the conversation pretty much regardless of where we are. So we're putting a little bit of a time limit to us, which is interesting. But yeah, without further ado, it's time to kind of introduce the guest, and it's kind of a special one. And we're going to go through that as well, I'm sure, right? But long story short, Benji, Very good to have you here. Traveling to Copenhagen. What brings you to Copenhagen, actually?
Oh, I was actually invited by Mercedes. They're doing their CLA launch, so we did a nice test drive around the countryside yesterday.
Very cool.
So I was with the design team, so they told me about how the car was designed, the innovations, the inspirations, which is quite interesting how they design. So
yeah, it's a really interesting brand, right? We get back more into that as well because you have a lot of different products. Obviously, your own company, Les Benjamins, which we're going to get into as well. But first things first, as I mentioned. So first question here: what does coffee mean to you?
That's a good one, actually. I was actually drinking 2 to 3 coffees a day. Now I reduced it to 1 to 2 coffees. And for me, coffee means the extra boost. And I'm also really interested in like well-being, longevity. So I'm also calculating my cortisol levels to be making sure that I'm drinking at the right time, so it doesn't interfere with the natural flow. So that's why I want to have amazing coffee.
I need to ask, when is the right time then?
So I follow a couple of people, and they usually, it's when you wake up, you go 2 hours back. That's the coldest body temperature that you get during sleep. And then you add up 5 hours on top. That's when you get most productive in the day. And usually you should do like 90-minute sprints, like 1.5 hour sprints where you work really hard. And it depends on people to people. But for me, I have it around 12:30, 1 p.m. seems to be great just before I go for lunch.
Okay.
Just time it a bit later. But if you have it too early, I feel like it bothers your natural cortisol rise. So I try to like be mindful about that.
That's really interesting, and I think that for me that's almost the first time I think I even thought about that. But I think for me it's similar in the sense I can definitely feel that there's different, let's say, times of the day where I'm naturally very in tuned to things, and other times of the day where you maybe need like a little bit of let's say a bump or like a little bit of an extra energy as well, right? And I've actually seen on your social media that you are going through this kind of very health focused lifestyle at the moment, right? Is that something that comes out of like where does that come from, and where did that kind of inspiration come from?
So I lost my father at a very young age. So I was 19. So that was a trauma that I had. And I didn't realize how that affected me over time. So I gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
I was overweight from age 19 till 2 years ago. I would say I am overweight. I would say I'm on a path of like solving that. But that gave me, unfortunately, some health issues. So I have ulcerative colitis, which is a IBS, irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
And I had liver fibrosis F3, which is like you get it through either alcohol or being overweight for multiple years. Mine was being overweight. So with age 30, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and I was like, my life is gonna end. This is like horrible. This is, of course, there's way more difficult illnesses and sicknesses, but I was like in a hospital bed. It was really bad, and I was like, oh no, I need to increase the medicine. I need to start steroid shots. I was on cortisone treatment for 3 months. So I was like, this is getting bad. And then I was like, I have to switch my life completely. That's when I discovered Ayurveda. So okay. I have this German lady living in Istanbul called Uli. And she's been helping me, advising me on an Ayurvedic diet and how I can reconnect with my body.
Okay, that's amazing. And that maybe also explains, let's say, some of the connection to, let's say, Japan or like very cultural, right? I think we're at a point where we need to give people a little bit of context here, right? So one of the main reasons why I kind of discovered you in the first place is obviously the brand that you started and you run, right? So if I'm correct here, back in 2011, you start Les Benjamins, right? Do you want to tell everyone a little bit what Les Benjamins is, if they for some reason don't know?
Sure. So I was actually 21 when I started, and it started off really like with t-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies, really simple. I was 21. I loved fashion. So Rei Kawakubo, Yohji Yamamoto, Hiroshi Fujiwara were all my heroes, especially Yohji Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Looking at like, for me, he's the godfather of luxury streetwear because he combined tailoring with Japanese silhouette and traditional silhouettes. And for me, looking at those Japanese silhouettes being transformed with tailoring fabrics into something so comfortable, for me was an indirect reference of how streetwear got involved, the luxury streetwear especially that we see now. He was like the godfather. So for me, he's the reason I wanted to become a designer. And the brand has evolved over the 14 years, and next year is also going to be our 15th year.
Oh, wow.
So it's a big moment. But what Le Benjamin is today is definitely men's and women's contemporary streetwear brand. And we do bags, we do jewelry, we do accessories. My wife designs the bags and jewelry and the women's, and I'm focused on the men's and the overarching brand.
Okay.
And we work as a couple, and we have an amazing team as well in Istanbul, both in the studio and in our head office. And the brand's DNA basically is all about the Near East, Middle East, and Far East. And it's about bringing back the Silk Road and working with craftsmen, working with artisans, unfolding stories, but also preserving culture, especially craft.
Yeah. Which is amazing, right? And I think we're gonna get back to like the process of starting a company at 21, right? But also let's touch on what you just mentioned, because we met last year pretty much for the first, let's say, official time, right? And that was during one of the events that you guys hosted as a brand, which I thought was like one of the most amazing, let's say, curated events that I ever been to. And I thought as a brand, it was such a valuable and powerful thing to do, and also something that a lot of brands would not do, right? Because it's quite a big product. Do you want to walk us through a little bit what that was?
Sure. So you know how every brand is trying to build like a sustainable pathway, I would say, for themselves. For me, yes, the packaging can be circular and also fashion can be. But what's more important for me is that the brand is true to itself. And for me, and what I feel very close to is crafts. And I see in Turkey, unfortunately, our craftsmen are not getting the same appreciation like in Kyoto or in Tokyo or in other important craft destinations. So I was like, I need to do something. And I was actually in Japan when this idea came up. So I was in Tokyo with my friend Sam and Maggie, and I was like, guys, I want to do like this year is 100 years of friendship between Turkey and Japan. I would love to do like a collaboration. And then actually Sam told me, Benji, I should take you to Buaiso. You have to meet them. I think you guys could do a collaboration. And then when Buaiso came up on the thing, I was like, Sam, you know what? I think I want a couple more Japanese craftsmen. First, I wanted to do a fashion collab when I was there for 100 years of friendship. And then I was like, this is much cooler. This is much more authentic. And it's also more me. Like I love bringing multiple generations together as well. I feel there's this magic when we're all together. So that this was perfect for me. And then I took the trip to Tokushima. Yeah. And then from there we met other craftsmen. And then it suddenly became like 8 craftsmen from Japan. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I also need Turkish craftsmen.
Sure, yeah.
So, and then we met incredible, most talented Turkish calligrapher. We met a miniature artist and also like incredible, one of Turkey's top family that does handmade carpets in silk. Yeah, which we created like this illustration with the Japanese illustrator Makoto-san, and with the Turkish-Japanese friendship. There's this like Turkish traditional boat that's a symbol. So we used like 1 million looms in the carpet, and it took 6 months to make this silk, and it's only like tiny. It's like maybe this size there.
Yeah, sure. I remember seeing it.
So it was a beautiful project with all of these craftsmen.
Yeah. And it's so, because it's so interesting. I mean, you like, first of all, you're clearly a very kind of humble person, because you describe this as like a little, a small little event almost, right? But like it's a massive logistics, first of all, to get everyone in one place, and like the amount of guests you pulled in to come and kind of experience it as well, right? And I think the whole kind of concept art for me was very inspiring, because I think we seem to, I think, share the idea that the craft is very important. And I think culturally in a lot of places, but especially like you mentioned Turkey, where you have cultures with such a strong identity when it comes to craftsmanship, there's a generational shift. We see it in the coffee world as well, where the young generation is not as interested in things as, let's say, the older generation is, right? So they're not spending as much effort and time into learning a craft, into communicating a craft. And frankly, also a lot of these, let's say, current craftsmen and women, they are extremely good at what they do, but they're maybe not as good as bringing it out there or promoting it, right? So it's hard to connect to sometimes. And I thought that was so interesting, right? And then my own connection to Baosho as well in Japan, right? I must have visited them just like a few months before you came there, I think, or something like that, right? So it was such for me, it's so interesting how, let's say, me from the coffee world then mainly, and you from the clothing world, we end up in the exact same little island / community in Japan to meet the same crafts people, right? That's really interesting, right? Because it's a bridge in between two very different industries in a way.
I guess we're sharing the same energy, the same vibrations, because we're going for something that ancient and valuable. So that's what brought us together as well. It's crazy.
Exactly. Now we sound very old, right? But I think there's something very interesting, and that's why. And let's talk more about your company, right? Because I think what's so interesting with what you're doing is that you seem to have hacked the concept of how do you take that kind of, let's say, cultural aspect of things, craft aspect of things, but turn it into a form language that a new generation is relating to, right? Because I think there's a lot of brands, or let's say another brand doing the event that you just did in Istanbul, or launching the things that you just launched, like I don't think they would be able to connect it in the same way that you are doing. And I think that's really interesting, because you need to, all craft has to be not changed, but they have to be developed in a way so that a new audience can relate to it, right? And I think it's the relatability of some crafts that is difficult for some people. And I think you have found a very interesting way of connecting a new and important audience with this kind of crafts, right? And I'm very curious to kind of learn more about how, is that something that just, let's say, because it seems like it's very natural for you to pull together this event, right? But I'm looking at it from the outside and I go, wow, the amount of work, the effort, the network, the people, the money, like the sheer kind of willingness to pull something together, right? Like it's, I don't think there's a lot of people in the world that would do that in the first place. I think that's a pretty unique, I think some people might have the idea, but there's one thing to have an idea and then a completely different one to actually realize a project, right? So I kind of want to go back to, like, you're 21 and you decide to start a clothing company. Like, why do you start a clothing company? Obviously, you're interested in fashion and design, but is that what you were always interested in? Was there no other options, or was this, let's say, the only thing that you felt really passionate about?
Since I think I'm 13, 12, so my father was more into fabrics. He was in more textile. My mother owned a fashion store. So she was bringing in like Roberto Cavalli, Jean-Paul Gaultier, and different Italian brands to Istanbul. She had a little independent, humble boutique store.
Okay.
And with her, I would do the buying. But looking at like my childhood, I was always around fabrics, textile, all this. And I don't know, for me, more than working for my father or my mother, I always wanted to be an like independent designer, have my own fashion brand. And I loved fabrics, I loved trims, details, and everything like finishing details. I would go really into detail. Always I flip the product, look how the sewing has been done. And curious person, I go into like factories and see how the tailors sew things, how they cut things. For me, it was just so incredible because in life, you know, food is very important because you gotta eat.
Sure. Yeah.
But clothing is also really important because without talking to someone, you can understand what that person's interest can be just from the way they dress. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. So yeah, I basically learned everything myself, being like of German Turkish background. When you're a migrant growing up in Germany, you get a little bit of a pressure from your Turkish family. Well, study business, you know, make sure do law or be a doctor, you know, this kind of pressure. So I did not follow my passion, unfortunately. So I didn't have a design background, which is sometimes a blessing and a curse. But I learned everything by myself. So a lot of trial and error. But also it didn't make me afraid of doing mistakes, I think.
Yeah.
Because I was already at ground zero. So
no, for sure. And I think that's, we see it like in my own journey in coffee as well. Like again, blessing and a curse really, where a lot of people in my industry, they don't really have an education that is suitable to, let's say, I never studied how to run a business, right? Or marketing or even coffee roasting, because there's not really a university for it. So it's interesting how, as you say, that can be kind of a catalyst for creativity as well, and I've been creating something unique. And I think what's interesting with your brand in general is that it feels like I'm looking around in the fashion world and I'm trying to kind of categorize you guys. And it's very difficult.
Yes.
You know, I see like one of the first pieces I bought from you was from the Boss or Hugo Boss collaboration. And
the beige look, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the denim.
Yeah. And then I see all of a sudden it's like you're launching a PlayStation collaborate like not too long ago, right? And then I go like, and you have several other collaborations in between there, right? And I go, I told also my designer friend, we had a conversation about this last week when I said you would be on the podcast. And I said, like, I can't take any other brand in the world and have them do something like this, and it would make no sense. But when you look through like everything you guys do, it's so visually, it's so different, actually, like aesthetically, but it's the same brand, right? Like there's like a red thread that goes through everything you do that still makes it feel cohesive, which I still haven't figured out exactly what that is. But I think it's super interesting because I don't think, it's like the musician that, they want to be creative and launch a new record that doesn't sound like the previous record, but people get angry, right? They want to hear the old record. But you seem to somehow figure out how to just create a little bit new in every aspect, but still have a following that continues to buy into it, right?
I think of Andre 3000.
Yeah.
And his flute album.
Yeah.
That's same thing, right? It's not him at all.
Sure.
But it's very him as well.
But it is him. Exactly. But that's the thing, right?
I think it's to do with energy and the way you approach every project. And somehow you put the spirit into the collaboration that necessarily doesn't have to sit with the pieces as well.
Yeah.
So you could wear that, for example, Hugo Boss Le Benjamin pants, but then you throw that PlayStation hoodie, which brings you back to your childhood with the 30 year ago in like vintage PlayStation logo.
Yeah.
So these two opposites actually start working out, because it's like, you know, we all had our era. Like I was a metalhead.
Yeah.
You know, now I listen to jazz, but I also love hip hop.
Yeah.
So it's like we have all these eras, and it's interesting to just bring those 90s memories back, and then it somehow makes sense. I also don't know how it works, but it does.
But it does, right? And I think it's what makes it feel very genuine in a way, right? Like you really feel, because fashion often can feel like, I think anything created today can feel a lot like it's more created for someone else rather than an expression of the person creating it, right? And I think a brand today that I would categorize as relevant is a brand that produces and shares their perspective on something, right? And I think you have a very unique and clear perspective of what you're sharing then, right? Which I think is really interesting. And I'm curious, and I'm not sure how much you can and want to share, but like, how does one even do that? Like some of the collaborations you guys have done is like, I don't even know how do you pull that off in the first place, right? Like what has kind of enabled you, and what have been the process? Where does the idea, like who came up with the idea of running with PlayStation? Like where does that come from?
I mean, it's really interesting. I'm a gamer.
Yep.
So I started with Quake. I played Half-Life, still play Counter-Strike today.
Yeah.
Here and there with my PlayStation friends, because I'm on PC most of the time, but I do play PlayStation as well. I play Fortnite, even though they consider it as a more child game. I love it.
Sure.
I think you need to be true to yourself. If you're a gamer, you know, if you like cars, if you like collecting like Japanese jazz or whatever it is that you love, the brands see that because it's part of who you are. It's, you know, you'll share about it, you'll talk about it. So these gaming companies know I'm a gamer, I play. And that's how actually this happens. You know?
Okay. So did they actually reach out to you and go like, should we do something? And then you just go, yeah, cool. I put that on a t-shirt, kind of.
For sure. I mean, doing a PlayStation collab for the 30-year anniversary colored PlayStation logo was incredible. Like it brings me back to my CD era, you know, Final Fantasy, all those crazy games I used to play hours and hours and hours. It's like, it's just like going back and then bringing it to the future and like being a time travel, I guess.
Yeah, sure. But I think there's a lot of brands that would, you know, kill for an opportunity like that in a way, right? But then it's also it's one thing to have the opportunity, but it's also knowing what to do with it, right? And again, like let's say PlayStation calls me tomorrow and says, "Do you want to do a collab with April?" Right? Like I would have to. It'd be super cool. Don't get me wrong, but
make a nice orange PlayStation console.
Which would maybe that's an idea, right? But,
you see, it works.
No, like because I'm curious and like how would I react to that, and would I be able to actually do something with it, right? Because I think again, it's you seem to have this ability of you have this opportunity, but you also do something really interesting with it, right? Because there's also, again, people with the opportunities, but what comes out of it doesn't really make much sense.
I think this is a great point that Patrik, you're pointing out. I think it has to also do with me growing up as a Turkish German in Germany to fit in. I always had the struggle. Am I good enough? Do I fit in? Should I bring my Turkish food to school? Because all the kids would look at me like, what is this? So having this kind of uncomfortable position, I always found ways how to be part. And when I saw someone who was excluded, I always found a way to include them as well. So I feel like this became like a kind of a superpower.
Yep.
So when brands approach me and it doesn't make sense at all with my brand, I find ways how to include them somehow in a harmonious way.
Yeah.
Goes back to that actually.
Yeah, okay. That's so interesting, right? And I think it makes sense, and it also seems to be, you know, collaborations is first of all a very trendy thing, right? But then also a very natural way to kind of explore and see what comes. I want to touch a little bit on, and I mean, I'm not sure everyone here necessarily listening has you know full background of, let's say, Istanbul and Turkey and what that means, but now I've been fortunate enough to go quite often to Istanbul, the most amazing city in the world. I've said that many times, but let's say it again officially. But how is like just from a pure entrepreneurial perspective, right? Like, how has that journey been, right? And when you started, did you start where you by yourself from the beginning, or how did that kind of journey work more practically for you?
So I started off myself. It started off like going to Bread and Butter, which is this trade show
Germany,
in Berlin. And there was this brand next to me, drink beer, save water or something.
Okay.
This brand, and they were like doing so well back then. And I was like a kid, 21-year-old, put the t-shirts in the luggage and came and put up my stand. And then I had actually two very interesting buyers. One was from Japan.
Yeah.
The other one was from New York. The one from New York, his name was Ben Sam Abrams. Uh-huh. He used to own the Atrium store. Okay. He's now the uncle of Ronnie Fike, Keith. And he placed an order. Yeah. And then he came to me and said, Benji, I loved your t-shirts and the designs, but what's the markup? What's this? What's that? And I'm looking at him like, what is he talking about? Exactly. Like, what's the markup? This is the price.
Yeah. you buy it for this and then you do whatever you.
Yeah. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to come back towards the evening, go to the neighboring designers and ask them what the markup is. And then I started struggling. Okay. And I became friends with my neighboring stands and all of that. And I learned everything like this, from total scratch. If you look back, the points, I can connect them. But if you would go back to Benji when he was 21, I was totally lost. I was just like wanting to create a brand.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then suddenly, I became this brand in Turkey that does amazing t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies. But then I was like, my heroes like Yoji, Hiroshi, like Rei Kawakubo, all of them are like ready-to-wear designers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to step up the game. And that's when I got invited by Mercedes-Benz, actually, Fashion Week.
Interesting, yeah.
To be showing my first runway show.
Yeah.
And it was a very exciting moment for me because I could design shirts, I could design jackets, denim. Was an entire new tool set of games for me.
Yeah, sure.
Going to those denim suppliers and all of these different fabrics, constructions. And that first fashion show really it was a big milestone for me.
Yeah.
I had actually 3 friends walk for me. And that was also a wonderful moment. And then I became a ready-to-wear designer suddenly.
Wow. Yeah.
From just starting off with tees and hoodies.
Yeah.
And then I just kept going. And then I was like, I need to open a retail store.
Yeah.
Then that challenge to open my first retail store. And we opened in 2012 in Galata, which is like the most historical part. Also where my German school was, because I studied that's also like duality is such an important thing for me.
Yeah.
Growing up in Germany, I was a German Turk, which I am also a German Turk, but coming to Turkey in Istanbul, I was considered now an Almancı. Yeah. Almancı is a saying of a Germanized Turk.
Okay, yeah.
So again, you're kind of like, okay, where do I belong?
Like, where is my base? Yeah, exactly.
Then in my German school, they put me in the German side.
Okay.
So 95% of the students are all on Turkish side of classes with the Turkish curriculum. But then the 5% with the German passport, they put us in, and then Turks would go like, you look Turkish, why are you in the German side?
Yeah, sure.
I'm like, what are you talking about? My entire life was like, where do I belong? And I'm in peace now. Yeah. I'm German and I'm Turkish, and I'm happy to be both.
Yeah.
Like it took me a lot of time to understand what I am, because I kept on being pulled to one or the other.
Yeah. What was there a tipping point there? Like, was there something specific that made you feel comfortable in that? Or was it just like realization over time that it's okay to be both, so to speak? Or
I think seeing so many successful German Turks, like scientists, musicians, so many film directors like Fatih Akın. I don't know if you've ever watched this.
I haven't watched it.
I will send you his stuff.
Yeah, do it, yeah.
It's really cool. It's really good stuff. Yeah, I love his film. Seeing all of these people, and I'm like, or like Barış Manço, for example.
Yep.
Barış Manço is our psychedelic rock legend. He was not German Turkish, but he was someone from Turkey that was kind of proud of its roots and its identity and its thing. But he was also a global human citizen.
Yeah.
So he would travel the world. He would go across all continents. He's been to Japan. He's been doing concerts in Japan. He was in Africa. He was in Middle East. He was in Europe. And he would educate the Turks about the world and the world about the Turks.
Yeah.
That was he was also his big hero.
Okay. And it feels a bit like that's almost what you're doing today, right? I feel right. And let's go back a bit, because so 2011 you start. It's bread and butter is Germany. It's the Mercedes-Benz show, also in Germany.
In Istanbul.
In Istanbul, yeah. Okay. And then 2012 you open up the first shop. So actually very close to starting, right? And now, I mean, again, to context for the listeners, like, you're not a random little fashion brand anymore, right? Like, you're quite the brand, right? I think like the most successful fashion brand coming out of the Middle East historically, right? Like, how does that happen? How do you go then from doing that first show, opening a store? Because one thing with Istanbul, I think, is that it is very secluded, right? There's so much amazing stuff happening in Istanbul that I always thought a big part of that is because they are so secluded. So they don't feel the need of copy pasting so much. It seems to be a creative spot where you can kind of really bring out your own perspective to it. You're not too colored by any other culture, so to speak, right? Whereas here, for example, you see a lot of inspiration from, I don't know, the US or whatnot, right? But because it is so secluded, in my head, it's also hard to break outside of that, right? And I'm assuming in an industry like the fashion world that it's not the easiest to get to the point of, let's say, respect that you guys have today, right? It must have been quite of a challenge being Istanbul-based brand, right?
Yeah, a Turk doesn't support another Turk.
That's also a thing, right? Yeah, of course.
It takes a lot of time, respect, and also, I think, genuine energy.
Yeah,
I think the Turkish community and the youth saw that I'm not just doing clothes, I'm not just doing designs or collaborations just to do them. There is this entire movement of me trying to pull the youth up together with me.
Yep.
And we've worked with so many musicians, rappers, artists. We'll give them our store for their art exhibition when no artist gallery wants to sign them.
Yeah, sure.
When there's like no music label wanting to work with them, we do stuff with them. So Le Benjamin is kind of a global Turkish youth accelerator as well.
Yep.
It's like the hidden, I think, special ingredient, I would say. Cool. And for me, it's like I was that kid once, right? Yeah. So it's me going back to young Benji when, the design community, like we had like this designer foundation in Istanbul. Because I didn't study fashion design, they wouldn't want to take me in. Even though I had done bread and butter, I've done my first fashion show, they were rejecting me.
Yeah.
So for me, I couldn't go into that where I could learn more. And also the designers were a bit distant, I think still today there's this bit of like everyone is in their own little bubble. For me, it's like I want to give access. That's why I have like my own Discord channel. We have like 1,700 kids and adults that want to create their own brand, or 3D designers, artists, fashion designers.
It's amazing.
And they just talk between each other.
Yeah.
And I also have a channel called Share Your Carpet, because I think when you were saying what is it that brings everything together, it's the carpet. Like I use a lot of carpet and rug patterns in my designs.
True.
And I think now over the years people can see when it's a carpet pattern, this must be Le Benjamin. So I think that became like our signature It's like with April, I
Yeah,
think
sure.
it's color for me, and like
Yeah.
and simplicity and like refined luxury. I feel like,
and I think that is really interesting because it's hard to find brands today. I think where again, like kind of like what I said before, where you have so distinctly different pieces, but you see them and it's still very clear who it's from, right? It's like no, it's them. Like they do this thing, right? And I think that combination is really interesting. Let's touch a little bit on like today. So today you have a store in Dubai, or two stores, two stores, yes. What's next? What's coming up? Is there any interesting collabs? Is there a store somewhere else? Like where do you want to take it?
So now we're working on our new fashion collections. We still do every year spring, summer, fall, winter collections, which is like our main thing. And we just also released 1 year ago Le Benjamin Classics, which is all our 14-year of experience of simple, basically silhouettes that worked over the time, but making more subtle branding, keeping it more tonal, or putting it in a more unexpected, unconventional way.
Yeah.
And it's more for also seeing like how us millennials, we get older, we grow. I think the brand grows with the millennials as well.
Yeah, sure.
So I think like if you want just to have like a nice denim, but super high quality, no branding at all, that's like Le Benjamin Classics. So it's a complete new category, and it's been growing a lot. Yeah. So we have our main fashion lines, which is like story based. So one season I'll design a collection about the eagle hunter, Mongolia. The other season it's about Mexico. So it's about the collection is called El Gringo, and it's about again like my story of being a German Turk, like Almanca. In Mexico they call foreigners a gringo.
Yeah, sure.
So I know that word is controversial, but I love that word because it's in the gray zone. Yeah, it fits perfect to Benjamin's, and also I love stories of diaspora. Yeah. So we designed a collection telling the story of someone from Turkey moving to Mexico, and he's an El Gringo. Yeah. So he goes as a worker, and works maybe at the farm or works at construction as a painter. So each look tells a work story. And then towards the end of the collection, he starts owning his house and then moves to a summer destination and then dresses in all like resort and like lace and all of this. So it's like a journey of someone migrating to Mexico from Turkey.
That's super cool though. And I like there's always the same, the Korean collaboration. Like there's always like a level of storytelling in every piece that is kind of being launched, right? Which I think that's really cool and it makes a difference. Is there any plans on, let's say, international expansion outside of, let's say, the Middle East? And
our strategy and our plan is reviving the Silk Road. Yeah. So looking at like Turkey, and then now we are in Dubai. Now we're opening Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, which I'm super excited about. And the brand is performing really well in these countries as well, because we have multi-brand stores that sell our brand, and we're ranked in the top part. Okay. So that shows huge potential, to be honest. So Baku and Almaty, it's coming up very soon. And then we're planning and continuing our pop-up events in Tokyo and Seoul. Yeah. So we've done 2 last year. And we're again in talks of what we can do there as well. The dream is to move to Far East. So we'll have Japan, we'll have Seoul, where I'm looking at like opening a store in Kyoto, something more craft inspired as well, something more experimental. Tokyo, Osaka. That's my like ultimate dream, is to have stores in Japan and South Korea and potentially as well in China.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that there's, obviously big markets in general, right? I would love to do the same in Japan as well. Like that would be something, a bit of overtime.
I see April in Kyoto so much.
I see it too, right? But there's, as you know as well, like building a brand internet, like I always say it's easy to start. You know, if you want to drop in a store somewhere, it's not so difficult. You know, you can do it. The question is the longevity of the store, the focus of the company at large. I think that's one of the challenges for me with April is just the small size of the company, so to speak. The infrastructure kind of available to build a brand, and what happens with the brand when you're spreading out, right? Because it's bound to change something. And then do you have the people to build? Because I think when you get to that point, there has to be people in the company, apart from you and your wife, that can build, let's say, a similar value to the company, right? Because you're just so much larger as an organization, so you need those kind of contact points. So I'm curious to see, right? But I think it's a journey that I still haven't quite figured out. But I think it's really interesting, and I'm wondering if, like, in my head, I think retail might be, not that it's easy, but perhaps a more like suitable, scalable business model than, let's say, coffee service, for example, what I do, right? And I think also with Japan, of course, you have brands like Capital, you have the the identity and the integrity. So you have a customer base already that understands what you're trying to do. And I think in my case, in the coffee world, April is still kind of scratching the surface of what we can do, and it takes time, I think, for the general coffee drinker to let's say relate to it, because I think sensory wise is always a little bit of a challenge, I think, for people to adapt, right? But I think it's really interesting, and I see it as a marketing opportunity in general, right? And I think I'm so interesting when I hear, the next expansion for you guys are so much, let's say, closer to home, and also in a region of the world where, like, the issue is, and I think in general, where, like, there's so many people, I think, that don't interact with those cultures, or like even Istanbul, right? It's still a lot of people that never been to Istanbul. They go to New York, they go to Tokyo, they go to London or whatever, right? But they don't put Istanbul on that kind of same, let's say, pedestal, right? Which I think they should, because there is such a big part of the world in that region that I think we know so little about, if you're, let's say, not involved in it culturally, right? So I think that's a very kind of interesting perspective. Yeah,
I think it's all about now the underdog cities. I feel like Mexico is really exciting.
Yeah,
I feel like looking at like Kazakhstan, Almaty is super exciting. You see, like, the world changes so fast, and I think we don't know the world good enough. And I feel like by traveling and meeting and talking, you actually see how similar we are, how many interesting things are happening in each city. I think also there a lot of people are talking about India, how India is going to be massive in the next years.
For sure, yeah.
So I would love to go there as well. It's I'm really curious, because my first half of my life, I think now looking at my life, I was also like, I want to be in New York, I want to be in Paris, I want to be in Milan. But for me now, I'm so much more excited about being in Seoul, so much more excited about going to Vietnam, going to these, like, all these underdog, unexpected cities, and you see the youth is striving and they're creating and they're so hungry, and I love that, seeing that fire in those underground scenes in unexpected cities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it links back to I mentioned it before as well, and it's there's two sides of it, because obviously, let's say there's a level of it being slightly unfortunate perhaps, but when we see these cultures where because it's true, let's say in Turkey, that a lot of people don't travel outside of Turkey either, right? Let's say you're a barista or a store worker in Istanbul today, right? Like, you're 25. let's say, you're not going to be able to travel to New York all the time or like London tomorrow, right? But if you're a barista in Copenhagen, you kind of could go to London once a month if you want to, because of, salaries and proximity and all of this, right? But what happens when you're not able to do that is that there is a level of creativity and integrity that comes from that is very special, right? So the people that don't get, let's say, too influenced by other cultures, right? Obviously I say that as a person that travel quite a lot, and I see a lot of value in those trips, right? But it's this kind of balance of being able to take in inspiration from other people and cultures, but not forgetting where you come from and what you have to bring to the table, which I think is also a really important balance in that kind of ecosystem. One thing I want to ask about, and something that we segue away a little bit from now, is what's been difficult? Like from the outside, it seems like it's been, you're sitting here, you start a company, you're 21, and now you're sitting on a really successful company in general, very strong brand. Has there been a point in that journey where things went to shit, or like when things just didn't work out the way you want to, or has it been like a smooth sailing?
And I think no brand had this at all. I mean, I feel like there's always struggle.
Yeah.
There were maybe 5 or 6 instances where I was like, okay, that's it. I can't anymore. It's so difficult. It's always the challenges become more complex and also more difficult. You said it as well. It's like you're focused now in 2 countries, I assume, right?
Yep.
You have South Korea in here, and then if you add another country, then suddenly there's a time zone, there is logistics issues, there's importation tariffs now, what's happening in the world as well.
Sure, yeah.
So
100%.
Supply chain production has to shift.
Yeah.
There's always challenges, but for me, every 2 to 3 years, I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm stopping here. It's too much.
Yeah, sure.
It happened to me every 2 to 3 years because as a like a creative entrepreneur, you started this brand because of the love of what you love to do, which is like design, fashion, making beautiful collections, and these beautiful collections on people and empowering them or like making them feel good about something. But then when you faced with issues like logistics, operational, geopolitical, economical, and also things that necessarily nothing to do with what you do, but it affects you. It really drains you as someone who wants to create. Yeah. And sometimes also the fashion calendar can be really, not sometimes, I think always.
It's a constant pressure, no? It's like now you have to make something that is better than what you did last season. And that's it, right? Like it's a very stressful, I can see, like kind of ecosystem if you feel obligated to be a part of that, right?
Yeah, but I've been doing this for 14 years. Every Jan and June, I had to put up a very strong collection and always develop myself. And those calendars are just crazy. Yeah, it's like also January and June are so close to each other, so you really don't have much time. You need to come up with your concept, start working on like your creative direction, start developing ideas and references and how you want to merge and create these unique items, and then start sketching and designing, come with ideas, and then colorize those sketches, and then suddenly add fabrics. Okay, what fit is it gonna be? And then you have to make a decision on color, which is another entire different layer.
Yeah, sure.
And then you need to anticipate with your other teams. Like the way it works is like we have our design team where we create all the designs. And then we have our product team who then look at our designs and they have to allocate numbers and quantities.
Yeah, sure. Like, is this even possible to...
And they have to look at data in the past, but then they also have to have a gut feeling of how many units we should be entering in this design. Yeah. So it's a constant collaboration and a constant conversation. It's really not that it looks fashion looks really beautiful from outside.
Yeah,
but it's a serious, highly disciplined industry, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're forced to perform, right? Which is, in a way, I kind of appreciate that. I mean, I'm sure I wouldn't if I was in it, but I think the coffee world is so opposite from that. Like, we don't have any strict deadlines. We don't have any, there's no one telling you that, okay, but in 6 months you have to do what you do now, but a bit better or a bit different, because otherwise people are not going to be interested in what you're doing. Coffee is a lot more, okay, I think a lot of companies they do what they do and that's it, pretty much, right? I think I'm trying to build a perspective where we can evolve and develop into something else, but I think the fashion world has that in a so much more intense, kind of active way.
But it keeps you really active, and it really refreshes you.
Yeah.
And what makes me keep going, I think, from all these struggles and things that I've experienced in the past, is number one, when I look back, I'm like, I see how much I've grown, just as Benji, but also La Benjamin. All the collaboration requests we get even now, it's like, it's really, it's a blessing. It's
do you have like a dream collaboration that you haven't done? Like, do you have one that is like, if I could choose anyone, any company, anything in the world, like, what is there anything you're like, this would be amazing?
I mean, in 2017, I was one of 12 first designers to ever be invited to the Nike HQ in Portland. Okay. It was me, Sean Witherspoon, Venus X, and a couple more designers from around the world. And we were the first time ever in Nike history to design as external designers. Okay. They only had collabs or their own internal designer.
Yeah.
So that was for me probably my dream project was that, but it was one shoe and it was a competition.
Yeah.
I think my dream would be one day to really create like a Nike collaboration that's gonna be sold worldwide.
Yeah, like an official collaboration with them.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't with the path you're on. It doesn't seem so distant. It feels like that could very much happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a bunch of bureaucracy and behind the scene things to figure out from, let's say, a brand like Nike's perspective, right? But I think there's it should be doable, right? And I mean, Nike also needs a bit of a push, I think, these days, right? Like, they would need a bit of a new perspective, I think, in general. So maybe that could be something, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Definitely. I think it's interesting, the whole collaboration idea, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about as well. I haven't quite, I think, hacked that or figured out exactly how to incorporate it, or maybe it is the coffee is still like a fairly small kind of industry, so there's not enough brands that maybe see value in those kind of collaborations. But I always thought that would be very interesting, right? And I mean, that's kind of part of why we're doing this as well, in the sense that trying to bring in slightly new perspectives into the coffee world, and have the coffee people that normally would sit and watch coffee YouTube and whatnot, to actually listen and tune in on other people's perspective, right? Because it holds so much value, I think, just in general, right? Let's circle back a little bit to, like, you're in Copenhagen. It's the first time, which is interesting, right? What's your perspectives on Copenhagen? Or
number one, the airport experience was incredible. Normally I travel so much, I'm always on the go. Even the police officer was so nice. Like, I like, you don't get to see this a lot. So the minute I entered Copenhagen was so nice. Yeah. People also seem very positive.
Yeah, sure.
Very welcoming, loving. And I see it's a city also with a lot of kids, like a lot of young parents. Yeah. It's like on their bikes, and I like, both Lami and I, like my wife, we said we definitely need to come back and stay longer. Like, the energy. Also, it reminds us a lot about Japan as well, in terms of like the design philosophy as well. How product and craft and using like high quality material. Mm-hmm. It seems like you guys are on the same level of like design.
I think so, and I think for me that's a big reason why I moved to Copenhagen in the first place. I think because of I felt this kind of, let's say, ambition in general. Like I think it's a city, and there's people and brands and a history here that strives to have a certain quality level, I think, and there's an interest among the people living here, I think, too. They want to drink good coffee, they want to eat good food, they want to buy good produce, right? They want to use good bikes. I don't know. There's a little bit of consideration, I think, in a lot of those details. Obviously, a very privileged, let's say, society or opportunity to even be able to consider that, so to speak, right? I think a big part of it here is that we don't have that many other concerns, right? Which I think is quite interesting. I want to touch a little bit, and only if you're open to it, but you did just become a father fairly recently, right? And amazing experience. And I'm curious, has that changed anything on, let's say, your entrepreneurial journey? I guess on an individual level, it must have changed many things.
I think everything in life. I think when you become a father, you truly grow as a man more. Like it's really like you start understanding it's not just about you anymore.
Yeah.
Of course, being married, you and your wife, it's already something. But then when you have a son, it's now a different feeling completely. You start also like what I did when my wife was pregnant is like, okay, now I will have to really manage my time wisely.
Yeah.
So I start looking at like productivity tools, what I can do. How should I set up that Notion now or not? I start thinking a lot about like, how can I time everything better?
Yeah.
And then I also thought about my health. Like I really need to lose weight. So with the liver fibrosis that I had F3, I brought it down to F1 now.
Amazing.
Now my liver, it healed.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot for my health, but also I spend a lot of time reading philosophy, thinking of how the mind works and how I can psychologically understand those difficulties, the traumas, also face my like inner fears more. So the better I am, the better I will be for him as well.
Yeah.
So him coming actually fixed a lot of things about myself.
Okay.
Which is a beautiful way of looking at life as well.
Yeah. Did you feel it changed anything in let's say the direction of your company? Or I mean, you mentioned like time and you being able to fit everything in. Do you have to, let's say, take a little bit step back on doing things at work, so to speak? Or will there be a kids line coming up at the beginning, which I mean would probably make a lot of sense, for example? And
my wife is, Lamia, she's also the lead in women's. She really wants to build like our kids line.
Yeah.
But she wants to experience especially the first full 1 year.
Yeah.
So she really understands why buttons are so difficult, having some zips and some. So there's so much functionality. And I think also, by the way, right now as we speak, she's shopping for her baby.
Yeah, sure.
So Copenhagen, it's an incredible city for also baby clothes.
I don't know. Yeah, so, definitely.
Yeah, it's what definitely I think it's a perfect timing because the brand is turning 15 years.
Yeah.
I matured as well. I'm now 35, turning 36 this year.
We're the same. We're the same age.
Yeah. Nice. 89?
Yeah. No, 90.
90.
Okay, yeah, no, that's true. Then you're 1 year older.
Yeah. So I feel like I matured as a person. He arrived and the brand matured as well at the right time. So next year it's marking our 15 year. And we're also introducing our new logo emblem, which we never had before.
Okay, wow.
And we want to make like a 15-year anniversary event. This may be a table book, it may be a festival. We're thinking of like what's the right concept.
Yeah.
But it's the time to say, look, it's been 15 years and this is a new chapter for the Benjamin.
Yeah.
The mature looking at the past, what we've done, and what we want to do in the future. We call it the Future East.
The Future East. That's amazing. And it's actually, so we have so for some reason I haven't actually dialed in so that the timer would make any noise. So we might actually have gone along over time. I'm sorry for that. No. But I think it's a good spot to wrap up, right? Because it's like 15 years. It's a huge thing. I'm assuming there'll be some big celebrations and things going on as well, right? And like you've been very, let's say, inspirational for the short time I've seen the brand, right? I mean, it's been quite short, but it's about a year and a half, I think. And I think it's so for me in my own journey, it's so important to meet people and see people execute, let's say, a certain level of integrity in what they do, and also do that successfully, right? Because it's a reminder that from a business perspective, I still believe that the real advantage you have as a company is the people that are running the company, right? Because you are not running another fashion brand, right? So what makes Le Bünyamin so special is the fact that you two are running it, right? That's really the unique advantage / let's say selling point of what you do, right? And it's so inspiring to see business owners that just kind of tune that up. You know, they take their personality and they're just like, okay, we're putting this into a company, and then we're gonna kind of unapologetically just go for it, right? And I think it's a good reminder to everyone also listening that, you know, if you're starting a business, you know, bet on yourself, in the sense that is you know, you have to believe in what you can bring to the table. And you have to bring that to the table, right? And then you have to have the balls and guts to just kind of, you know.
You kind of ignorantly have to believe in yourself.
Yeah,
and that can be dangerous sometimes too.
But there was something I related to so much when you kind of described your early journey with, you know, the markups and the t-shirts. And I mean this with the utmost respect. And I think I had a very similar experience where, like, you have to, it's the naivete, a little bit of stupidity. I don't want to be. I was stupid when I started. I'm still stupid.
We're all stupid actually.
The thing in the sense that you just don't know, right? Like, you don't know that it's difficult. You don't know that it's supposed to be really difficult to build an international famous clothing brand, right? But then all of a sudden you've done that, and as you said, you can look back at the journey and you can go, well, I did it like this, but when we started, like, you have no idea. I was like, sure, I need to roast some coffee, and I probably need a bag to put the coffee in. You know, that's where you start, right? It's like you start with your t-shirt, and that's like, I'm going to do a cool t-shirt, and then someone says, I'm going to buy you a cool t-shirt, and then it's step by step. Why?
And then for you, there's levels of acidity. There's how bitter do you want it? How acidic do you want it? The timer, the pressure, and there's so much. There's so much in coffee too. Things, right? Coffee looks so simple from the outside, but
but I think that's
how you brew it.
Yeah, but I think it's I've always kind of held like the cornerstone of like an interesting or successful brand. It's the same with you guys, right? Where it's like, it just makes sense when you look at it, right? But then obviously there's so much complexity behind the curtains, right? And I hope for like the people listening here, and we are going to follow my rules and actually wrap it up, but I hope you guys got a little bit of insight in like Benny's journey as well. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was super nice. I know you had a super busy schedule in Copenhagen, so I much appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
it's so special for me.
Thank you very much.
I love what you do.
It's a journey, no?
Yeah.
Thank you, Benji.
Thank you, Patrik. Thank you so much.